Good evening, everybody. We'll call this meeting to order. First order of business is roll call. Allison, can you give us the roll call, please?
Your worship, I can confirm that I, Clerk Allison Adams, Chief Administrative Officer Adam Betteridge, Director of Finance Arundhati Mohil, and Deputy Clerk Diana Wilson are in attendance at the Township office. For those participating by video conference, please answer present when your name is called. Mayor Manal.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Giguere.
Present.
Councillor Widner.
Present.
Councillor Moore.
Present.
Councillor Cerna.
Present.
Councillor Lewis.
Present.
Councillor Galinsky.
Present.
Director of Public Works Matt Sweetland.
Present.
Acting Fire Chief Don McLean. Manager of IT Cecil Coxon.
Present.
Thank you, Allison. And we should welcome Allison, as this is her first meeting as the new manager of Legislative Services and Clerk. So welcome, Allison. I see Diana's in the background just to make sure that nothing extraordinary happens. So next order of business is disclosure of pecuniary interest. And I see that Mark and Chester have both declared, and that has been noted.
Thank you.
The minutes from August the 12th, was there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, mover for those minutes, please.
I'll move it.
Cerna, seconder.
Second it.
Giguere, all in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Giguere,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel.
Yes.
That's carried.
Errors or omissions? And we need a mover and seconder, the public meeting concerning the zoning bylaw amendment application of Calvin Yancey, Eno Stahl, Isaac and Anna Reimer, Agent Franz Seeberger, relating to property located lot 25, concession 8, be called to order at 7:32. Mover and seconder,
Move it.
Moore. Seconder,
Second it.
Lewis, all in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Giguere,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel.
Yes.
That's carried.
Thank you. The purpose of this public meeting is to consider an application to change the zoning and to revise the existing site-specific zoning. Applicants are Calvin Yancey, Ena Stoll, Isaac and Anna Reimer, Agent Franz Seeberger. Property lot 25, concession 8,
Yes.
geographic township of Malahide, being known as 51618 College Line. Allison, can you advise and confirm the date of notice, please?
Notice of the meeting was given in the prescribed manner by the publication in the Elmer Express on August 11th and 18th, 2021. In addition, affected property owners within 120 meters were sent notice by prepared first-class mail that was posted 20 days prior to the meeting.
Thank you. Adam, can you give us an overview?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I can. So the application is currently zoned to allow for a fruit and vegetable processing facility. That would be an agricultural related use. There is a new proposed operation that would convert that building. There would be an addition to the existing structure that would convert it to allow milk and cheese processing to occur, also an agricultural related use. I've provided some information in my application that it will require a site plan agreement based on the increase to the proposed expansion to the building. That would follow for council approval at a subsequent meeting. The application is yet to be made for that site plan control application, but when it is, it'll go through the staff review process. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to simply allow for this new revised site-specific provision that will allow for the processing of milk and cheese processing, storage, shipping, those sorts of uses. I've gone through my report and have indicated that it does meet the intent and purpose of our official plan, the provincial policy statement, and I believe it's good planning. So unless there's any questions from council, there's nothing further to add to my report.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Is the applicant there? or a member of the public? Questions from council? Okay. Mover and seconder, the public meeting related to zoning bylaw amendment application of Calvin Jancy, Ina Stoll, and Isaac and Anna Reimer, agent Fran Seeberger, related to property located at lot 25, concession 8, be adjourned and council reconvene at 7:35. Mover and seconder,
I'll move it.
Blinsky, seconder,
I'll second it.
Cerna, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
yes,
Mayor Mennel.
Yes.
That's carried.
Thank you. And a mover and seconder report number DS 2141 entitled zoning bylaw amendment application. Calvin Jancy, Ina Stoll, Isaac and Anna Rami be received. And the submitted zoning bylaw amendment application D14 Z0721 relating to property located at North Part Lot 25, concession 8, more particularly described as Part 2, 11R 8078, known municipally as 51681. College line be approved for the reasons set out in this report.
Move it.
Moved by Moore, seconder,
Second it.
Widner, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
yes,
Mayor Mennel.
Yes,
That's carried.
thank you. And finally, bylaw number 21-60 being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 1822 insofar as to release the property owned by Calvin Jancy, Ina Stoll, Isaac and Anna Reimer, agent Fran Seeberger, relocated to lot 25, concession 8, be given a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed. Moved by Lewis, seconder,
I'll second it.
Cerna, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
yes,
Mayor Mennel.
Yes.
That's carried.
Okay, we have a request for petition for drainage. Matt, are you looking after this one?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Your Worship Council. Everyone gets to hear me for a while tonight. I do have a number of reports for your consideration. In this first report, I can note that in a prior meeting of council, a petition was received by a landowner on Sparta Line, and Street Associates were appointed to investigate that petition. On further staff review, there are no immediately available outlets for surface water in this vicinity of Sparta Line to facilitate drainage of the roads and ditches. So the Drainage Act does provide a number of avenues for the municipality to obtain a legal outlet for that water. And similar to past practice, the township may add their name to ongoing petitions or initiate new petitions where extensive works are required. So in this case, as there is an investigation in place, the council may authorize staff to sign a petition to join the investigation for the current works. And staff do suggest this is an opportune time to address the drainage concerns in this location, as the road section is additionally approaching the end of its useful life, and economies of scale may be realized once a drainage solution is sought. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions council may have.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Questions for Matt on this drain? See none. Mover and seconder, report number PW 2142 entitled request for authorization for road authority to petition for drain Sparta Line be received. Director of Public Works on this designation be authorized to file a petition for drainage under section 4 of the Drainage Act for future drains work on Sparta Line. Mover and seconder.
I'll move it.
Moved by Galinsky, seconder,
I'll second,
Jiguer, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yeah.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
yes,
Mayor Mennel.
Yes.
That's carried.
Okay. The next one's involve you, Chester, so you need to be vacated.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yes, so this next report relates to a drainage petition the township received by a landowner on Colton Line to address a condition of severance requiring the applicant to provide a legal and adequate outlet for said severance. So this petition relates to a new drain to be considered at an approximate length of 150 meters to the nearest potential outlet, which is shown in the included staff report. So as required under the Drainage Act, that when a petition is received, the council is to appoint an engineer to prepare the requisite engineer's report. And staff recommend that Street Associates be appointed to investigate this petition. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions council may have.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Question for Matt? Seeing none, mover and seconder, report number PW 2146 entitled Petition for Drainage. Galinsky petition be received, and that John Spreet, professional engineer or Spreet's associate, be appointed to prepare an engineer's report for this petition. Mover and seconder.
Move it.
Moved by Moore, seconder.
I'll second it.
Jagger, all in favor?
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
yes,
Mayor Mennel,
Yes,
that's carried.
thank you. And green stream there, Matt.
Yes, so this second intake of the ICIP Green Stream funding is now open. Towards 240 million of funding with priority placed on drinking water projects to address health and safety concerns, areas of technical merit, criticality, health and safety, and the funding need. So the popular one that's come to council a number of times is the Highway 3 water main replacement project, which is shown in the township's asset management plan. It does satisfy all three criteria of the funding. The existing pipe is undersized and at the end of its useful life and doesn't provide adequate fire coverage per current regulations. So this project was tendered in 2019 and came in well in excess of the available budget due to the site-specific groundwater and utility conflict concerns, which additionally satisfies the funding need requirement of the green stream. So to note, as directed by council after the prior funding attempts on this project, staff did proceed with renegotiating the MTO's requirements, which did drive the price up prior. And we have been successful in obtaining some concessions to bring down the estimated cost of the project. Construction and material pricing increases experienced since 2019 have drastically inflated the overall project estimate, which is still unbudgeted. So if successful under this funding stream, the project would receive funds in the manner of 40% from federal sources, 1/3 from provincial sources, and the remaining estimated cost of around $320,000 would be required by the township, which may be accommodated. So staff felt it prudent at this time to bring a report to council to endorse this application, all in an effort to put our best foot forward to obtain the funding, which is set for commencement of work in fall of 2022. And I can answer any questions council may have.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Certainly the fact that the province is, or MTO, I should say, has lifted some of the restrictions should make it a little more palatable. Questions for Matt? Seeing none, mover and seconder, report number PW 2143 entitled ICIP Green Stream Funding Intake 2 be received. And that the Council of the Corporation of Township of Malahide does hereby support the grant application for the replacement of Talbot Line East water main. Mover and seconder.
I'll move it.
Widner, seconder.
I'll second it.
Galinsky, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
yes,
Mayor Mennel,
Yes,
that's carried.
thank you. And are you doing the next one too, Matt?
Yes, I will be.
Go ahead.
Yes, so in this good news report, staff were notified of successful funding on June 30th this year under intake 2 of the municipal modernization program. Realizing the very short timeframes afforded by this funding opportunity, staff were readily able to issue an RFP for the facilities consolidation optimization plan, with which requires a completion date by November 30th of 2021. So 5 firms did access the RFP document, but only 1 bid was received, which is assumed to be from the short timeframes afforded by the funding agreement. So to ensure the integrity of the RFP process, staff did follow the terms of the procurement and reviewed the technical aspects of the proposal prior to opening the financial envelope. So in summary, this consultant, Sterling Rothday, has extensive experience in municipal operations and identifying operation and facility needs, space optimization, utilization, and consolidation opportunities, including assessing the required resources to follow through with those opportunities. The program proposed by the consultant puts a focus on the administration facilities, the roads facilities, and community halls, and building an optimization and consolidation business plan to enable the township to implement into future budgets and grant applications and development, which in short includes opportunities to eliminate issues and deficiencies that affect operational flow and productivity. And also to eliminate wasted space and achieve greater space utilization and reduce operating costs, implement logistical improvements, and review possible disposal of non-optimized space. So essentially, they'll complete an exhaustive review of where facilities are located, how they're used with respect to operations, and prepare a business plan to absolutely optimize the functions. In total, the project was quoted at $39,960, which is 100% within the funding limit, and staff recommend awarding this project.
All right, thanks, Matt. Questions for Matt on this funding? Dominique?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Matt. Just a quick question on the contract. So I noticed in the report, you talk about a total price of $39,000 and change. But in the contract itself, there's no mention of that amount, and it talks about compensation being on a time basis. So are we confident that we're covered in terms of an upper limit of $39,000, or what's the rationale for the time basis approach, where it seems like the RFP submission must have been providing a total quote of $39,000?
Through you, Your Worship, the agreement that is used is the typical consulting agreement that the township has had vetted by the legal counsel prior, that does consider an RFP in this process that would be time-based up to a limit for the RFP, noting that we're looking for available billing rates in case extra work is required or if additional change orders are needed. So avoiding that upper limit, but still within the RFP process. I hope that answers.
Okay, so somewhere in the contract, we are covered by that upper limit of $39,000.
That's correct. So the terms of the RFP and the proposal would form part of that agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Matt? Seeing none, mover and seconder, report number PW 2144, entitled Award of RFP Facilities Consolidation and Optimization be received, and that Sterling Rothday Consulting Inc. be selected to provide consulting services to prepare facilities consolidation and optimization plan as per the RFP documentation. Consult proposal at a total price of $39,960 plus taxes. Mayor and clerk be authorized to enter an agreement with Sterling Rothschild Consulting for the purpose of undertaking comprehensive facility consolidation and optimization plan. Mover and seconder. Jagger, seconder. Lewis, all in favor.
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jagger,
Yes,
Mayor Mennel.
Yes,
That's carried.
good. And Matt, the wood chipper.
Yes, so as council is aware, a new wood chipper is included in the 2021 municipal budget, as the existing equipment was scheduled for replacement in 2015 and has undergone considerable maintenance since that time. Tender specs for the proposed unit were prepared with the equipment committee and issued in June 2021. Only one bid was received for the new wood chipper, and while being within budget, staff did deem it diligent to test the equipment prior to recommending any award. And based on the test performed, the equipment committee does have specs and sizing of the equipment, whether it may adequately serve the needed use of the roads department. So in an effort to ensure the right piece of equipment is considered for the best long-term consideration by a township, it's recommended by the committee and staff that council not award the current tender and rather reevaluate the tender specs and issue a new tender for consideration, again, to meet the long-term needs of the road department. And I can answer any questions council may have.
Okay, thank you, Matt. So the existing tender limited the size of the wood chipper, is that what we're saying?
The tender that was prepared identified desired specs, and various proponents could indicate whether those specs are followed or propose their own units. So it gives the desired configuration to be bid on, and as well provides alternatives for anybody to give us pricing. And unfortunately, only one bid was received for the work, so it was the one that was considered by the committee. And with some of the items that are included in our equipment, it just didn't quite meet the snuff that we were looking for. So accordingly, we'll be looking to attempt a wider audience with a new tender as well, and again keep it open for interpretation by the proponents to submit what they should think will work for our needs.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Questions for Matt on the chipper? Mark, did you have a question?
No, I just had a comment if you want.
Go ahead.
I was at the one demonstration. I guess the wood chipper they sent us really wasn't even the one we would have tendered for, but there isn't a whole lot of them out there to show us. So they sent one with a lot smaller motor. While it did work, it was an underperformer, and I don't think we want to buy one until we see it work and we know it's going to work for us, because for 20 years we want something that's going to work. So there's only two companies out there that sell these things, I guess, right, Matt?
That's correct.
The one's annoyed with us, but that's up to them. So I don't know. It's tougher to buy one. Now Central just bought one too, right? But they haven't got it yet, so we can't even go look at theirs. So well, anyway, let's retender it, get something. Let's do something right the first time, and it's going to be a long time before we get rid of it. So if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So
All right, well, you want
around.
something that will do the job.
yes.
Any other questions for Matt?
Mr. Mayor, I'm just curious, how much use do we have for the chipper? Like how many hours on average per year?
Through you, your worship, offhand, I don't have the hourly usage for that, but to keep the roadsides trimmed, it is an activity that does be undertaken constantly throughout the years. We prefer obviously doing it in the fall when leaves are off the trees, things are a bit earlier, but it's a project that is always on the radar that we do get considerable use out of.
It
So
really
there's no
depends
other,
on the winter. Like the mild winter, you're going to do more brushing, and if you got a heavy winter, then the brushing kind of takes a back seat to snow plowing. So it does get a lot of use. There's no question.
Right. We're putting approximately 100 hours a year on it. It's got 2,200 hours on it. I think we've had it almost 22 years. So we're not putting big hours on it, but I can't see us even leasing or renting and still coming out ahead. So but 100 hours a year isn't huge use either. So
Any other questions? Mover and seconder, report number PW 2145 entitled Tender Update, Hydraulic Wood Chipper be received. Staff director revised the tender document as for the Equipment Committee's recommendation. Staff be authorized to proceed with the retender for the purchase of one new hydraulic wood chipper as per the revised tender specifications.
I'll move it.
Moved by Widner, seconder,
Second it.
Lewis, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
yes,
Mayor Mennel.
Yes.
That's carried.
And you're doing the speed limit reduction, Matt?
That's correct. So it was on receipt of the phase 2 road safety audit. Now the staff wish to bring to council's attention various road segments with horizontal and vertical geometric deficiencies within that study zone, which was between Ron McNeil and John Wise line. So while reconstruction of the under designed road segments may be completed, that's obviously a costly endeavor. So in the meantime, a speed reduction may be implemented as an interim measure to bring traveled speed to a level that may be accommodated by the existing roadway geometry. The identified road segments are listed in a table within the staff report, suggesting various speed zones be reduced from 80 kilometers an hour to 50 and 60 kilometers per hour where noted, again, to match the accommodation that can be provided by the roadway geometry. So the cost to purchase and install the required signage is approximately $8,800 and is not included in the 2021 budget. It is staff's recommendation that direction be given to prepare the necessary bylaw amendments to establish the new speed limits on the included sections for anticipation of completion in 2022 after further consideration by the budget committee as this is an unanticipated expense. And I can answer any questions council may have.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Questions for Matt on the speed limit?
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt.
Through your worship to Matt. I look at the report and I just question why, in a sense, when we've seen it done in other places. We had business owners come forward after the fact saying nobody was consulted. And I thought on this Van Patter line, when we looked at the data, and if I'm not mistaken, the data said that everybody was under the speed limit already, except for very few. And it's very like there was nothing in the main report about this road not being in good enough condition to do 80 kilometers an hour. And now it's being brought up that it's in the condition of not being able to do that speed limit. So that's why we're going to reduce it. So to me, unfortunately, I see it as inconsistent. I don't understand why, I guess is what I got to ask.
Matt?
So with respect to Van Patter line, in the consultant's presentation, they did note that there might have been an error on that section, and we did ask them to review that section in more detail following their presentation to council, that we're awaiting some information back from the consultant with respect to Van Patter specifically. Where these speed limit reductions are noted, it's looking at the road segment on behalf of the road authority from a safety perspective, where the speed limit currently on those sections can't be accommodated by the roadway geometry, from basically reverse engineering the road sections, where typically the section would be designed for construction to a specific speed limit, where in these cases, the speed limit is in excess of what the roadway geometry can accommodate. So the report, being a safety audit, suggests areas that the township can look at from a safety perspective and identify safety concerns, but it is up to the township to address those concerns in a manner where reconstruction of a vertical curve could be considered, obviously costly, or reduce the speed limit to make it a safe road section. If that helps answer your question, I hope if there's anything else I can add.
Well, yeah, and watch note for staff, because I just don't want to open a can of worms, because if we're reducing this for a safety concern also, then I think there's other parts of the municipality that have been brought forward to us, and we sort of said no to it for reasons of, that it was okay the way it was, and data showed that it was, vehicles weren't speeding, so we couldn't do it. So I just don't want to see someone come forward after this and say, okay, well, if you do it there, you're doing it over here also because of safety reasons. So I just don't want to open a can of worms in a sense.
And if I can add as well, these speed limit reductions aren't looking at these sections from a data collected traffic point of view, whether vehicles are speeding on these sections or not. These reductions are from a roadway geometry perspective. So there may be speeders on these areas, but that's not why we would be bringing these recommendations forward for these sections. It's strictly from a roadway geometry to meet design criteria. So those other sections that may come to council and to staff for safety, for areas that need to be addressed from a safety concern because there's many speeding vehicles, that would be looked at from a different perspective than the roadway geometry. These areas are strictly from a roadway geometry, what can be accommodated for a traveling vehicle at what speed.
Just to add to that, I did get a request from Len Jones, who's on Van Patter, for a speed reduction. He maintains the people, since the road has improved, the people are going faster. So I think it's only appropriate.
I have a comment.
Thank you.
Rick?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Matt. I don't think it matters what speed limit you do or proposed change you make. I've said this time and time again, if you don't get enforcement, it doesn't matter what the sign says. You could say 60, it could say 160. People are gonna do it, whatever. We need better enforcement of our road rules. Because again, too, we've had trouble in the Amish community. People are speeding there and you know, if there's no chance of getting caught, nobody cares. And they do their own thing. So somehow we can change these things, but we've got to have enforcement. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Matt?
Chairman L,
Go ahead, Jeff.
does this speed reduction not have anything to do with the fact that there's a soccer field and there are probably 100 cars or more making a turn off of Van Patter Road into the parking area on the soccer field, and that would need a reduction in speed. And yet I don't think that was ever considered, but that should have been one of the main things that should have been considered.
Matt?
Yes, through you, your worship, that point was considered further by the consultants following their presentation to council from a further data collection point of view. And while this report refers to the roadway geometry, reducing the speed limit from 80 to 50, whether it was the traffic that suggested that reduction or the roadway geometry that suggested that reduction, both of those factors with that specific example could be accommodated. This report specifically is speaking to the roadway geometry perspective, albeit still reducing from an 80 to a 50.
Dominic?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just want to clarify a few things. So for the record, the correction that was made into the initial report for Van Patter lines was actually an upper correction. So the initial report said that it was designed for 60, when in fact it was corrected to say it was designed for 80. So I don't think that triggered the change that is being recommended today. So I want to make sure that we're clear on that. And I also want then to clarify, Matt, are you saying that there was further data collection by the consultant after the publication of the safety audit report? Because we've committed to making a database, evidence-driven decision. And if I take the example of Van Patter, in the initial report that we looked at, there was no geometric deficiency on Van Patter line, which is why we said, well, let's collect additional evidence. So are you saying there was additional data collected?
That's correct. After that portion, there was discussion that was held about sports returning to the area or schools returning to the area, and further traffic data collection at that time, because the collecting data when at the time that the report was presented was obviously during the pandemic, and it wouldn't be suggestive of the real scenario. And then on review of the sections, there was further analysis by staff done on that section from the data that was collected and confirmed with the consultant regarding the geometric deficiencies. The way that it's collected and analyzed by CAD softwares may leave some up to interpretation, which on further review of that section specifically, we did look at that further to realize geometric deficiency that would result in this. That was also confirmed with the consultant.
Okay,
Right.
so I think it would be beneficial for council and the public to have, if there's additional data and additional reporting and interpretation from staff, it would be beneficial to have, because now I feel like I'm a little bit caught to say, well, on the record, as far as I know and the public knows, there is no geometric deficiency. But I think I'm hearing tonight that there's been further investigation, further interpretation, but we don't have a report that actually documents what are the geometric deficiencies that are warranting a speed limit. So I'm not complaining that it's warranted, but I want to be, as Councillor Lewis said, like, we're committing to making evidence-based and decisions. So if there is data, and because I would say I was surprised also by the other roads that where the geometric deficiencies were not evident in the report that we were provided. So if staff have conducted additional analysis or the consultants have conducted additional analysis, I think it would be necessary for us, for that report to be in the public realm.
Yeah, absolutely. Through your worship, we can have a look back at these sections and discuss with the consultant if council wishes to provide an amendment consistent with any changes that might have been warranted here to have that document public.
Okay,
Just add one if I could.
Mark?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Matt. Matt, I see Chalet line. You've got one at 50, you've got one at 60. I think it's probably better just to have it, make it all the one speed, 50, 60, because people do not like that. Go back to Wilson line, it's 50, 60, 80, 50, 60, whatever, and people just hate it. So if we keep, is it possible just to go 50 instead of the 60? Because nobody's ever going to do it unless you put one in it.
Through your worship, that amendment can be made if council wishes. These sections are stretched out a little bit further than prior would have been considered for that point specifically. And Chalet line could be considered further if council wished to for a longer stretch, specifically just at 50 kilometers an hour. Again, this was just looking at the equivalent roadway geometry, what the speed that geometry would allow as the conditions. So yes, council can make that change if they wish.
Councilor Lewis brings up a good point. We're going to have a lot more of these requests, and that's fine. I know I brought up Kings Mill and College Line where there's a cluster of homes and that was turned down. And I would say I'd like to see it relooked at and have it be down to 50 or 60. The same with Springwater North. That's a cluster of homes. So if this could be done here, I would think it would have to be done in Kings Mill Corner. And I think it should be. Well, something to keep in mind, please.
Any other questions for Matt? Rick?
No, just a comment on Chalet line. When I look at that, isn't that one side of the intersection, then the other from Carter Road? So if you go east on Chalet line from the intersection of Carter Road, that's going to be a 60 kilometer, and if you go west on Chalet line, that's going to be 50. But that's also a gravel portion of the road, and it's divvied up between an intersection. So on one side of the intersection, it's one speed, on the other, it's the other. I don't know if you want to change it or make it all one. It doesn't matter to me. But I just think that because there's a distinction there, that you could get away with it.
Through your worship, if council wishes, it might be, as the recommendation is that this be proposed to the budget committee as an unbudgeted expense. If we were to proceed with this in 2022, we can bring this report back to the budget committee together with a map that better indicates exactly where these sections are that might assist in the review.
Good.
Okay, so are you suggesting that we defer this report until budget, Matt?
That's the recommendation of the report, that it not be undertaken at this time as it's unbudgeted.
Okay, so motion to defer until budget?
Yeah, and
I'll
if I
move
may- Yeah, and I would second that if I'm assuming that would allow also a correlation with an additional report to document the deficiencies. I'll second that.
So moved by Cerna, second by Jagger, all in favor to defer?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jagger,
Yes,
Mayor Mennel,
Yes.
that's carried.
And the guardrails.
Yes, through you, your worship. Similar to the last report into the safety audit, there were a number of locations requiring hazard protection and warning signs noted in the report. So staff have long considered the maintenance of hazard protection to be within the scope of the annual operating budget. However, the installation of such work is better considered a capital expense. So the three-phase approach to the road safety audit was to start in the north third of the township and move southerly where greater topography differences occur. So this phase two audit, focusing on the middle third of the township, identified 18 locations requiring hazard protection at an estimated cost of $650,000 and 262 hazard signs with an estimated cost of $32,000. So a total estimated cost of $682,000 to complete all the required works, compared with a total $90,000 of available budget. Staff recognize the desire to attempt to realize an economy of scale by undertaking a larger single project rather than many small projects of the same scope. And accordingly, realizing the large scope of work afforded by this project and the prediction of similar, if not greater needs in the next phase of the road safety audit, staff proposed deferral of the guide rail and hazard sign installation consideration to the 2022 budget to develop a financially responsible and longer term phased in approach to accommodate these works. And I can answer any questions council may have.
Thank you, Matt. Questions for Matt? Seeing none, mover and seconder, report number PW 2148 entitled Safety Audit Phase 2, Guide Rail Protection and Signage Requirements be received. And the installation of the guide rails and safety signage identified the road safety audit Phase 2 be referred to 2022 capital budget deliberations.
Move it.
Moore, seconder,
Second it.
Lewis, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky, Deputy Mayor Jagger,
yes,
Mayor Mennel,
Yes,
that's carried.
thank you. And no parking on Springfield Road?
Yes, well, there isn't a report to go with this piece. Could also be considered as correspondence, but I'd be happy to speak to it. That it was, I believe, June 3rd that staff were advised by council that there were complaints regarding parking and restricted sight lines on Springfield Road near the new commercial venture. So staff reviewed the issue from the perspective of the road authority and the responsibility to address those safety concerns when brought to our attention, and determines that sight lines would be impacted by the parked vehicles and access restrictions are probable, similar to other similar areas in the township, and recommended no parking zone be initiated. This being a county road, the township does not have the authority to implement the no parking zone, but rather the county council may wish to advise of the resident concerns in their review of this. I don't have a resolution proposed here, but can note that I've already passed this piece of correspondence on to county staff But if council wishes, we still may take direction to continue to review this correspondence with the county as they undertake their review.
Okay, thanks, Matt. And I agree you. I do believe this is a safety issue, especially on a very busy corner. And obviously the county has to have the petitions in their hand to make that decision, but I still believe it's the no parking is appropriate on that corner. Questions for Matt? Dominique?
Sure, Mr. Mayor. Yes, if we could ask, as part of the recommendation to county staff, just so that if we could ask that they consult with the residents who express some additional concerns. I think they share the concern. I think they want to address the safety issues, but I think they may have some suggestions, and there might be some alternatives. It could be in terms of time of week or the actual distance that's being considered. So I would like to insist that as we pass this on to county staff, that we ask that they contact the residents for their input.
Yeah, I don't have any issues with that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Matt?
Yeah, when we're done with this.
Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through to Matt. Matt, I see the railways are taking the stop signs down off of the rail crossings. They were rough enough as it was with stopping, and now people are hitting them at speed, and a lot of them are just terrible. Now that's the railway's obligation to keep them smooth, or can we actually go ahead and just start filling some of that in? Because somebody's going to crash because of this crap. It's just too rough, eh?
Yes, and unfortunately that wouldn't be under the township's purview within the right of way of the rail allowance. But we do have correspondence with the various rail authorities to indicate those areas of concern. But unfortunately, it is up to the rail authority to look after those crossings.
Okay, but typically we haven't had good luck dealing with the railway either. So, what's our backup plan? We don't have one?
Not currently with that. We pass on that correspondence, and then that's kind of where it currently ends. We can obviously make a harder push for those areas, but we're kind of limited with our correspondence.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Matt on the no parking? Seeing none, mover and second, a petition regarding the installation of the no parking signs on Springfield Road be received. Petition before the County of Elgin for their information and request for them to consult with the petitioners. Mover and seconder.
Move it.
Lewis, seconder by Galinsky. All in favor?
Councillor Widner?
Yeah.
Councillor Moore?
Yes.
Councillor Cerna?
Yep.
Councillor Lewis?
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky? Deputy Mayor Jaguar?
Yes.
Mayor Mennel?
Yes.
Carried.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Aaron Dottie. And I will say that Aaron Dottie, this is her last meeting with the Township of Malahide.
Oh,
And we are certainly sad to see her go. I know she's moved to Eastern Ontario to be closer to her son, and I understand that completely. Family certainly comes first in my book, and I understand her decision. But we will miss you, Aaron Dottie, and I thank you for your last 2+ years of service. You've certainly put us in a great financial position, so we will miss you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate your sentiments and your expressing them in public. Thank you. It's
But
been
you're
my
not-
pleasure to work for the Township of Malahide.
Not
most
done yet,
certainly.
so you still have to work, so development charges.
Absolutely. So if I may, can I start with the reports?
Go ahead.
So my first report this evening is on the development charges study. We have recently we had approved our DC bylaw in 2019. However, there was some legislation that was in the works from the province at the time, and we had approved it tentatively with certain stipulations in that bylaw. And then once those were all passed at the end of last year, 2020, we recommended and council approved that we update the bylaw to include those changes. The one main one was that the community benefit charges, the impact of that to the township, and the ability to include more services as being eligible for being funded through the DC charges. So those were worthwhile that we went back and update the DC bylaw. So what we have now, we had at the previous meeting, council was received a presentation from the consultant, Messrs. Watson, and Gary Scanlon was the person presenting it. And there were no comments or questions from the public following that public meeting or during that meeting. And so the bylaw is being brought forward for approval this evening. The last time around, the recommendations were similar to what you see here. At that time, council had chosen to not go forward with the water service related charges, but following the recommendations in the study, the recommendation is noted here as well. However, it's up to council discretion if they want to follow the same method as last time and not go forward with the water service charges. That's entirely council's discretion. And also the other choice that council had done last time was to phase in the DCs. So it was over a period of 5 years that the full amount of the DC amount was to be imposed onto the building permits or the new development. So if council so desires, we can similarly have a 5-year phase in this time around as well. If there are any questions, as the consultant presented last time, the increase because of these changes is not very significant. It's now at 9,386 would be the full rate, where it under the current law, it would have been at about 9,234 as it's shown in the report. So the benefit is that we now have more services that are eligible and more expenses that are eligible. And the community benefit charges piece has more clarity and has been appropriately presented in the schedules and the bylaw itself. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Okay,
Mr.
thank you,
Mayor.
Marty. Adam, have you got any comments?
I can add, I think Arundhati has covered everything. I just wanted to reiterate that I think we're doing this again simply because we expected that when we did this in 2019, and Arundhati did cover this, there is an outstanding component known as soft services or community benefits charges. It was unknown at the time, but there was expected. And when Watson did this process in 2019, that perhaps Malahide and any municipalities in Ontario were going to have 2 sets of charge regimes, one a development charge regime, and then a new community benefits charges. Those community benefits charges have determined to only apply to much higher density developments, and those occur in cities. So they don't apply to municipalities, rural municipalities like Malahide. So what we've done, we had Watson look at this. It was determined that if Watson was going to, as our consultants, was going to go back and adjust our development charges bylaw to make account for this legislative change, why not let them? Not much else has changed. Let's redo the full bylaw, pass it, and we don't have to look at this for 5 years. So in all reality, there's a full new bylaw. It looks and feels and it's as thick as an original development charges bylaw, but really what we're doing is accounting for a legislative change and allowing us to not have to look at this for another 5 years. But I can add any other comments that council may have.
And just to add to that, basically, this is the same one we passed in 2019. This is just a housekeeping item, and we're doing this again to get us another 5 years, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Max.
thank you. The paragraph in regards to that, the Malahide Township Council does hereby agree to calculate development charges on a uniform Springfield urban area basis for water services. Would someone explain that to me? Does that involve new housing, new whatever in the former geographic Springfield?
Arundhati?
Yeah, I can speak to that, and if Adam wishes to join in, he can certainly do so. But basically, so that is the water service related charge, which would apply specifically to the village of Springfield, because that's where the water service is and is expected to expand. And that's why if you look at the table in the financial implications section on page, on page 89 of your agenda package, you'll see that the municipal wide services, which is your roads and your fire emergency services and parks and so on, is the 9,386, which is where we currently are. Like our current bylaw has approved only that. And if we were to go with a Springfield specific area charge, then that would be the additional 6,279, which is why there is a separate line in the recommendations section if council so chooses to approve that charge as well. That is based on the study, including or forecasting that there will be expansion and there will be further build of water service related infrastructure. However, the last time around, if I understand correctly, that was not the desire of council, that was not the expectation. And so that particular charge was not approved to be imposed. So currently we do not have that charge in our bylaw. We only have the municipal wide services charge. And if council so desires, we can, they can similarly approve this this night as well.
I'm totally confused with it in regards to when and if water ever comes to Springfield. This has been on the go for the last 20 years here. Well, actually before that, back into the 90s. And I can't see why people should have to pay a development charge for something that may never happen.
Sorry, through you, Your Worship, if I could add, I think council has determined, or at least you've spoken to it right there, Councillor Moore, that there has been a desire and an effort put forward, even though there's no pipes yet in the ground in Springfield, but that's the desired location for future growth, for water services. There's already sanitary services in Springfield. That's where we have school. We have the predominant amount of our residences in commercial areas outside of around Elmer. The component is someone who's building a house, say in Mount Salem or Luton or Port Bruce, where there's not yet a desire, or at least an immediate desire of the Township Council to extend water services. Why would they have to pay a water service that they're not going to benefit from because they don't live or reside in or own property in Springfield? So it's from a planning and finance perspective, in response to the development charges, it's fair for anyone building a house, as per a recommendation. It's up to council to make the decision. Anyone building in the boundaries of Springfield, at some point there may, and that has been the intent or the desire and focus, to get water to Springfield. If we're not collecting those additional charges for Springfield, it will end up being on the general taxpayer if council does decide to invest in water services, as instead of electing to add that charge. So I do appreciate that. Why add that bill if there's no water services to connect to? What it's speaking to, that's been the desire and the intent for a number of years. We've tried, we haven't done it yet, but hopefully at some point in the near future, that's where we will get water to Springfield. I hope that answers your question.
This is a clarification, Adam. That would only kick in if we got water to Springfield. Is that correct?
The recommendation is it would kick in immediately on the basis that there's an express desire of this Township Council to, at some point in the near future, have water services to Springfield. So it's specifically collecting that charge, just like we're collecting charges for roads. Like, even though there may not be a road in a specific location, we're collecting those charges because additional houses, additional supply in our, on our township cause a demand for more services. So this will kick in immediately.
But only if there's water, is that correct?
Say that again, sorry?
But only if there's municipal water available.
No, it would kick in immediately on the assumption that this council desires to have water to Springfield at some point in the near future. We would be collecting those charges to help fund the investment of water to Springfield.
Okay, then I have a problem. Certainly, if I'm a resident in Springfield, putting up a house with no municipal water, if I've got to pay $6,000 without any water, I think I have a problem. If I got municipal water and don't have to put a well in, then it's a bargain.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor, I agree with you, and I've had many concerns in regards to this since this came about, spread throughout the village. I think Bill McIntyre was a big opponent of it, and I've had others too, and I just can't support that.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Rick?
Yeah, I have to agree with you too. Nobody wants to pay for something because it's somebody's desire to have it. You pay for it when you get it. This is like, this whole thing is like buying a bag of air. I mean, you don't need to do that. So no, I think when we get it, then we'll deal with it. But like you said, to have to pay for something that's not there, that's a hell of a service. We can start billing for all kinds of things then. I don't think it's fair to these people.
And I assume, Adam, we can amend this if we're lucky enough to get water to Springfield. We can implement this. Is that correct?
Certainly.
Okay, then I would suggest that we adopt the proposal with the exception of the service charges for water in Springfield.
Yeah, I'd agree with that also.
Okay.
And if I may, Mr. Mayor, so my comment, my question was the same, that we can amend, we don't have to wait 5 years for another study to implement this. And I can appreciate the need to invest in advance of the water being in, but not in advance of making an actual decision. And I think we're still awaiting the feasibility study. And so we actually have not made a decision. So I don't mind starting to charge once we made a decision, but right now I agree it's a desire and not justified to charge. So as long as we can amend it along the way, I would say for now, status quo.
Okay. So I have eliminated the water charge for Springfield and am suggesting we adopt the balance. So mover and second, report number FIN 2114 entitled Development Charges Study be approved and received.
If I may, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, go ahead. Arnett.
The one other thing that I had brought up for council consideration is if they wish to, and I just don't want it to be lost in the discussion regarding the water charges, is that the last time around council had chosen to phase it in over 5 years. And I was wondering if that's the inclination this time around, or we are just going to go forward with the full rate starting from year 1.
Well, we're already in.
We are now 3,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
So there's 2 more years to phase it in?
Yeah, we could do a 3-year phase in if that's what you're thinking.
Well, we're already in year 3, correct?
Yes, but we are resetting the clock. So we are starting with a 5-year bylaw validity all over again. So this will be up until 26 that this bylaw will apply. So that's 5 years. And we could, so basically we could have the full charge imposed, which is the proposed rate of 9,386. Or if we were to phase it in over 5 years, in the first year, it would be approximately 6,851. And then it would increase up until to the 5th year, which is how we
already at.
Yeah, right now. So if you look at that column where it says current rate, that 6,217 is the 2nd year rate because of the 5 years of the existing bylaw.
But are we not at in 2021, 9,234?
That would be the full rate if we index it to 2021. It's not what we are charging at this time. Right now, we would have been collecting 6,217. But if we had the full rate in place right now, it would have been 9,234, which is comparable to the full rate of 9,386.
Okay, so what's your recommendation?
I would suggest we can go forward with the full rate if council is comfortable with that. The 9,386. Adam, if you want to say anything.
I think if we I think if council would desire to take the same approach as council did in 2019, you would adopt a phase-in approach. If we were trying to do a housekeeping amendment to adjust for one thing, keeping the status quo, and correct me if I'm wrong, Arundhati, would have council establish or continue with the phased-in approach. And I think, Arundhati, if you could assist, is maybe determining where, like we are on one hand halfway through if we weren't doing anything, but on the other hand we're starting over again. What would be what would be the process if we're starting from, if we're doing a phased-in approach? Where would we start?
So we can do it one of two ways. We can either say, okay, we are starting with year one because this is a 5-year validity that starts from the day that the bylaw is passed, and we would phase it over 5 years. Or alternately, we could say that because this was a housekeeping type of adjustment, we would technically be in year 3 of the bylaw because it was approved in 2019. And therefore, we could phase it in only within a 3-year period. And then we would be on par with how we had been carrying on already. So we could have it so that we would spread it over 3 years. And then the last 2 years, it would be the same full rate applicable that we have already reached.
Because we adopted this in 2019 on a 5-year period.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would mean we are in stage 3 right now.
Exactly.
So additional 2 years.
Right. So we would say, so we now have year 1 starting now and year 2 and year 3, and then we would complete that 5-year process of the previous bylaw. But we would have 2 more years because this bylaw is going to be valid for 5 years from the date of its passage now.
Okay. So if we got that in the recommendations to continue on?
So would council prefer to go for a 3-year phase-in?
Basically continue on with what we adopted in 2019, correct?
Right. Okay. So I would suggest then that last recommendation, which says the Malahide Township Council does hereby approve the DC bylaw as set out in Appendix G to be phased in over 3 years. That's how we would adjust.
Okay. Is everybody happy with the amendment, Dominique?
Well, Mr. Mayor, just a thought then. So essentially, there's no change to our 2019 because we're proposing to just continuing the phase in. We also don't know what's going to happen with the water decision. So what if we did nothing today, but at the end of the 5-year phase in, where we would have more information potentially about our usage around water, and then we could decide if there's we don't need a study, I don't think, to change the bylaw, because now we have a study that's good until, for 5 years, but we could actually do nothing this evening and just keep the bylaw.
Adam, I don't think that's possible.
I mean, yes, it is, but we've paid the consultant as per council direction to proceed with a consultant to do this for us, factor in the community benefits charges and restart the clock. So I think if we do nothing, we're essentially taking that consultant's work and the fees that we've paid to that consultant and not doing anything with it.
And if I may add, yeah. And also there are certain services that are now eligible for, like the province has removed the 90-10 deduction. So though we would lose, we would lose that benefit from any upcoming studies or other projects that are growth related.
Okay,
if we don't, yeah.
Okay, so there are additional changes in the bylaw than just the rates and the phase in. Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So what we've done, we've eliminated the development charges on the water and have presented the study to continue on for 3 more years as we adopted in 2019. So is everybody happy with the development charges as of what we've got? Chester?
Mayor Manel, just a question. We give grants to organizations and they do projects in Malahide, be it Springfield, Port Bruce, or wherever. are there developmental charges on those or just on the projects that these grants help to fulfill?
Through you, your worship, can I ask, are you looking at examples like in parks, park type development, or what type of development are you suggesting?
Well, or where I saw it in here, but I got the idea from what I was reading that money that was granted to organizations and used for development, there'd be developmental charges on it. I was just wondering why we'd be giving money with one hand and taking it back with the other.
Through you, your worship, I can speak to that. There are some exemptions in the DC legislation that allows or that provides exemptions for such projects like affordable housing, anything that provides more of a benefit to the community. I'm trying to think of some other examples, but affordable housing is something that's, if someone is investing in something like that, that provides not only a financial gain for the developer, but a community benefit, that is something that can be exempt from collecting development charges. These are subject to the standard. Someone's building a house or someone's building a subdivision or doing a commercial or industrial development that is for private development. I hope that answers your question, but there are exemptions that development charges, there are certain things that development charges do not apply to. And I think you're raising examples that I think you're correct. The development charges don't apply to everything.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? So as I said, we've eliminated the water services and we're continuing on where we were in 2019. So we need a mover and second report number FIN 2114 entitled Development Charges, Study Approval be received. Following actions be in accordance with the recommendations outlined in section 7 of the development charges dated June 25th, 2021. Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Jagger, seconder.
I'll second it.
Cerna, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore. Counselor Moore. Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jagger,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes,
that's carried.
thank you. And Arundhati, the asset report card.
Yes, Your Worship. This is a follow-up report. At a previous council meeting, council was presented with one of the annual reports, the annual asset report card. And there were some clarifications that were sought by council about how the asset conditions are being rated and why there seems to be a fair amount of C rating being given to some of the assets. So this report lays down the details, the way the rating is developed, and there is the example provided of our fleet where you will see that based on the age, there are several vehicles which are fairly old and so are not exactly in like the top rating, but they are functional and they are being maintained in order to continue to operate and function. And so even if it seems like it's a bad rating, it's not really. It's a medium to intermediate kind of status of the asset, and it is quite typical for most assets to fall there unless they are some very critical asset like a road or a bridge, which requires high level of safety related standards or other operational standards. So most of the assets that are directly used by taxpayers, whether it's a bridge or the street lights or sidewalks, those are definitely, council has given direction to consistently, continuously invest in maintaining those assets very high. And so those have an A or B rating. And then the assets that the township needs in order to deliver services, whether it's vehicles or equipment, those are maintained so that their life is extended as much as possible. And so based on their age or forecasted useful life versus that the fact that they are still being used, they result in a C rating. And so that's why the vehicles and equipment show a C rating. But that does not mean that they're in poor condition or that they are not being taken care of or not functioning as required. Some have been identified, and staff has brought forward recommendations to replace some of those aging vehicles, or some have had to be emergency replaced because they simply failed to pass the safety testing, for example, but not otherwise. Just because the forecast life is now over, this means we go buy a new vehicle. That has not been the trend from staff. And so this, I hope this explanatory report clarifies the way the rating or the ranking is done. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you, Arundhati. Questions for Arundhati on the asset report card?
Yeah, I'll have one.
Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through there and I see we are basing it on age, right?
To an extent, yes. And then when the time comes for replacement or the whole fleet plan has been developed, I believe it was presented previously to council. So yes, to an extent, if we go on the age, then that's what you see there, yes.
Okay, but we got a 1986 International Farm Loader Tractor. It's a 3, which surprises me because that's really old. But yet we have our big articulated loader, which is the same too, so. But I guess we're basing it on, are we doing actual conditions or just, it's just 10 years old and we're gonna give it a 3? Is that kind of how it works? Or?
Well, it's the age and also the condition. So it's based on what the staff in the public works area have, actually assess the vehicle or the equipment to be at. That it's a combination of the two.
Right. Do we certify our vehicles every year?
I believe so. Matt, do you want to speak to that? I believe so. If it's a requirement, yes, we do that.
Yes, just as required. I can confirm with the roads manager on that point.
Okay, because see, some of them are going downhill quite fast, and I don't understand how they can get that bad that quick. So wherever they're getting our service done, I wish they would report so we know ahead of time. It's a lot easier to fix something when it's a small problem than when it turns into a big problem. So, but anyway, I guess it's based on age. I see our fire trucks, but our fire trucks are all, I would consider, in excellent condition. Otherwise, we wouldn't have them out there front and center. So, okay, I guess there's a way to rate it, but I don't necessarily agree with it. So, thank you.
Any other questions for Arundhati? See none. Mover and second, report number FIN 2113 entitled Asset Report Card, explanation be received. Moved by Lewis, seconder.
Second.
By Moore, all in favor.
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
yes,
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
yes,
Deputy Mayor Jager,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes,
that's carried.
thank you. And water budget update. Who's doing that? Arundhati.
Yes. Thank you, Your Worship. So this last council meeting, I presented a variance report or a mid-year update on the tax supported operating budget of the township. And this council meeting, I have the other 2 budgets for Malahide, the water, which are both essentially user fee based. So there's the water and the sewer rates serviced operating budgets. The first one here is the water budget. If you look at the growth, you will see that there seems to be a steady growth. The number of users are rising as was forecast a while ago in the Watson's rate study. And so the forecast for the user fees is also justified based on the growth and the usage of the water and the consumption that we see increasing. There have been a few capital projects that were carried out through the so far through the year. There are some that will still be completed by the end of this year. The one big project is the Highway 3 piece, which has been spoken to a little bit in the previous report, where we are applying for the Green Stream funding. This is that same project, and it will be necessary that we receive some such senior government funding, because as you can see, the project is estimated at 1.2 million. When I was writing this report, that information was not there, so it doesn't speak to specifically in this report. However, there definitely are, and you'll see in the sewer report as well, that these infrastructure projects cost these are all very big ticket items. And so when you saw that Green Stream report, the estimate for the township portion, even if we receive funding from the federal and the provincial government, the township portion was in the range of about 320,000 if we get the full funding as we are submitting. And you will see in this report that we are expecting our reserves to be about 400,000. So that one single project, if we decide to fund the township share from reserves, will pretty much take away everything that we have in reserves. Alternately, if we were to go to debt financing to borrow money to fund our portion, as was noted in that report, it would be a significant amount that would have to be recovered from the users of the system, which would then increase the user fees more than what is currently in the pipeline to be applied in the coming years until the next rate study is completed. So although it may look like our estimated transfer to reserve at the end of this year is around 195,000, when we look at the cost of any infrastructure replacement, the need for creating reserves and maintaining a reasonable level in that pot of money is very critical. And as you can see, I have said, and we have the list of our assets as well. So it shows that most of our assets still have a fairly long life left in them. So it's not expected that many of them will come up for some critical replacements in the very near future, which gives us the time to be able to put away some money so that when the time comes, along with other grants or other types of funding, we will be able to undertake projects that come up at the time. Any questions? I'll be happy to answer.
I have one.
Aaron Dottie, who had the question? Rick?
I did, yeah. Our surplus is based on the fact that people pay for the service, and we've got this year's surplus you're projecting is $98,000 roughly, right?
The surplus would be about what we are expecting to transfer to reserve. So it's something that we would need to, which is part of the budgeting, because we expect to use that in the coming years for capital purposes.
Right, but you were talking about a good portion of this might go into the water project on Talbot line there. And then you said you could use it reserves, or we could borrow the money. And then you charge it back to the users? I don't understand.
Yes, so when we borrow the money, we have to pay it back, and we have to pay it back with interest. So that portion, so if we were to leave the 400,000 in the reserves untouched and instead borrow money to pay the township share, then over a period of time, we would have to repay that money to Infrastructure Ontario or the bank, wherever we borrow the money from. And the ability to pay that would partially be from what is in the reserve. But again, we would be in the same position that we are depleting our reserves for that one project.
But I don't understand, if we have the money, rather than borrow against it, you've built up reserve, then we should use the money, because you said the cost would be like $334,000. Okay.
Right, yes.
So
yes, absolutely.
Pay it out of the balance, and then you've got new infrastructure there, and then you use the following years. So you kind of pay as you go. I don't agree with keeping the money in reserve or taking just a little bit out and borrowing the rest, because it's the users who got to pay again. And
Absolutely, Councillor. That is exactly what I was trying to express, is that we would want to have the ability to fund our projects from our reserves rather than borrowing and paying interest and paying more for that. So definitely, the only risk is that when we have only 400,000 in the reserve and we pick up 320 and deplete our reserve for one project, then we don't have much to fall back upon if there is some other need that arises. That I was simply trying to explain what options are possible. I'm certainly not recommending that we borrow money if we have money in the reserves, and that's something we would have to consider if and when the grant process actually works its way through and we hear back and find out whether we are going to get the project and at what cost the project truly will be.
okay, well, I don't agree with building up a reserve and then stashing it and borrowing money and charging the taxpayer to repay it. I mean, we got the money.
Absolutely, I agree with
use
you.
it.
That is exactly, absolutely, I agree with
Yeah.
you, Councillor Sir.
I think we're all in
Okay.
agreement.
Good.
Any other questions for, about the water budget? Mover and seconder, report number FIN 2111, entitled Malahide Water 21 Budget Update be received.
Move it.
Moved by Lewis, seconder by Moore. All in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky, Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes.
that's carried.
All right, the Malahide sewer system update.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a similar report. It's on the budget status of the sewer system, the Malahide sewer system. And as you can see, it's proceeding fine. Operations are within budget as expected at this time. There were two big capital projects that were completed this year. The OPC pumping station replacement, which is partially funded through OSIF funds. And then there is I believe the Almer Lagoons replacement is to be undertaken or is in progress. I'm not sure about the status, but that is the other key project that was to be done this year. So we still are able to transfer some amount to reserves to be able to continue with our infrastructure repairs and replacement. I have also provided the details of the actual asset inventory because there has been some inclination from council to receive a complete set of information for any budget related documents. So I've tried to provide full detail as much as I can. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Aaron Dottie. Questions, Aaron Dottie, on the sewer system? Seeing none. Mover and seconder, report number FIN 20-12, entitled Malahide Sewer System 2021 Budget Update be received.
Move it.
Moore, seconder.
Second.
Jaguar, all in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky, Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes.
that's carried.
Thank you. Next, we have correspondence. There's 13. A number of them we have already endorsed, but is there anyone wish to make comment or support for any of the 13?
Your Worship, I think there's a resolution regarding a deeming bylaw next.
Yes, Your Worship, and that's myself on page 109 of the agenda.
Did I miss one? Yep, you're right. Sorry about that. One got stuck. All right. Yes, the deeming bylaw of Corner Holdings. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a scenario where in order to merge two properties together, council needs to pass it, what's called a deeming bylaw under the Planning Act to allow such to occur. I've detailed in my report that they're looking to build an accessory structure on what is an existing lot line. They own both properties, and in accordance with the Planning Act, it's a registered plan of subdivision. Council needs to pass a bylaw to deem those two lots not to be a plan of subdivision, which will allow the two properties to merge and become one. So unless there's any further questions from council, there's nothing further to add.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Questions for Adam? Seeing none, mover and seconder, report number DS 2142 entitled Request for a Deeming Bylaw, Corner Holdings Limited be received. Council approve of bylaw 21-68, which will deem lot 16 and 17, south side of Walnut Street, known as Colon Street, registered plan number 55, the village of Port Bruce, not to be a plan of subdivision, and the erection of a new detached garage or an office addition to an existing single unit dwelling on lot 16 and 17, previously described, shall not be subject to Township of Malahide site plan control bylaw number 05-13. Mover and seconder.
I'll move it.
Serna, seconder.
Second it.
Lewis, all in favor.
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel.
Yes,
It's carried.
thank you. And go back to the correspondence of 13 items. As I said before, a number are already endorsed by the township, but we're willing to take any comments or questions from this council. If there's no burning issues, a mover seconder to receive and file 1 through 13.
Move it.
Moved by Widner, seconder
Second it.
Galinsky, all in favor.
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel.
Yes.
That's carried.
Okay. Who's doing, Dawn, are you doing the next one? The fire training officer?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, then I'm going to assume it's Adam.
Which are you?
I'm at the request for the,
That's the current agreement that we have with Elgin County
yes,
for the training. It's the addition of Central Elgin into the agreement. So there was amendments made to that bylaw.
questions for Dawn on the bylaw?
Is that, Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Rick.
Is that, yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Don, is that the only amendment on that bylaw, was the addition of Central Ogden?
That is correct. At the time, they did not join as a collective, but they've recently, with the new chief, decided to join and participate in this joint training activity.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Dawn? Mover and seconder, the draft amendment to the County of Elgin Agreement of Fire Training Officer cost sharing be approved. Municipal clerk be directed to finalize the bylaw and submit such to the council for consideration upon receipt of confirmation from the County of Elgin that all parties have agreed to the amendment.
Move it.
Moved by Jiguer, seconder
Second it.
Widner, all in favor.
Counselor Widner.
Yeah.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel.
Yes,
That's carried.
thank you. And Adam, are you dealing with the volunteers for the fireworks?
I can, but if Dawn is able to speak to that as well, I would
Do
leave it
you
to
wish
him.
to speak to that one?
Sure, I can. It's actually not a fire department's activity. It's the Firefighters Association that are trying to put on a live show down in Port Bruce. They did a similar event a couple years ago, but unfortunately due to COVID last year, they were unable to. They want to make this an annual event for the community. A couple years ago, they did pass around a boot to collect funds for future shows. So what they collected a couple years ago, they now want to put forward to this show.
Okay, thanks, Don. And I was down in Port Bruce a couple of years ago, and it was quite a spectacular event, and it was well attended. So certainly I would support this.
Right.
Questions for Don? Seeing none. Mover and seconder, Malahide Volunteer Fighters Association be granted permission to utilize a portion of the pier in Port Bruce for the purpose of the firework display on September 25th or September 26th, subject to providing the township with proof of event liability insurance, naming the township of Malahide as an additional insured.
We'll move it.
Moved by Widner, seconder
Second,
Lewis, all in favor.
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
yes,
Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes,
carried.
thank you. Any other business?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Dominique.
Thank you. One request that, as you know, we've been talking about the need to improve internet access throughout the township and the county. I'm aware, and this council is aware, I'm a member of the connectivity committee of the county, and one of the initiatives we've looked after is trying to review our policies to ensure that we diminish as much as possible any red tape and streamline any process for ISPs to access right-of-ways and to get permits and so on and so forth. So I would want to make sure if we could ask staff to ensure that our policies at Malahide are aligned with county policies and the way perhaps they've been loosened or modified in Elgin or other neighboring municipalities to make sure that we are facilitating any internet project, and any ISPs wanting to work in Malahide.
Matt, you want to respond to that?
Yes, through you, your worship, we can look at those requirements. As always, we're looking to protect the integrity and the safety and the long-term needs of the right-of-way. It's available for many uses. Hard, making it difficult to prioritize one over another, but we can look at making sure we can responsibly advance any initiatives that are proposed to the township.
Thank you.
Anything else under other business?
Mayor Mennel,
Go ahead, Chess.
I had a concern from ratepayers at the corner of John Wise and number 3 and Imperial Road, requesting a signal light to be installed in that area because of the problem cars are having crossing and the dangers of it. There have been a few accidents taking place at that corner. And it was suggested that possibly this might be mentioned. I might mention this at the meeting today, which I'm doing, and hopefully it's picked up by administration and looked at and maybe passed on to county, since both roads are county roads. I don't have anything else to add other than the request was made and the people were quite adamant about it. So I brought it to the meeting today, and it's up to the council if it goes any further or not.
I think we can pass that concern on to county, can we, Matt? To examine that?
That's correct. I'm aware that the county has looked at this intersection in the past, and the traffic volumes didn't warrant a signalized intersection. The county is undertaking their transportation master plan at the time, And this intersection can be added to that list. I'm sure it can be. We can pass on the concern to the county for inclusion in that study.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Through you, your worship, I may just add with these two pieces of new business, and I may lean on our clerk and deputy clerk as to whether resolutions may be required from council, giving direction to staff to look at policies within the right of way for expanding internet infrastructure, as well as looking at that intersection. We can, it's not to say that we can't do it, but maybe seeking resolution from council that give specific direction.
So if you get a resolution that we can move forward on, then Matt or Adam?
Perhaps Diana or Allison can weigh in.
Your worship, we can bring that forward at the next meeting under other business and have some resolutions available for council.
Okay, that'll work for me. All right, anything anything else under other business before we move on to bylaws? Okay, bylaw number 21-62 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of agreement with Her Majesty and the Queen in right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing for the Municipal Modernization Program intake number 2, transfer payment agreement be given a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed. Move, Jaguar, seconder,
I'll second it.
Myrna, all in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky, Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes,
that's carried.
thank you. And as amended, mover and seconder bylaw number 21-63 being a bylaw to authorize the development charges for the township of Malahide be given a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed. Moved by Lewis, seconder,
I'll
Second.
second it.
who seconded? Cerna?
Yes.
All in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes,
carried.
thank you. And mover and seconder bylaw number 21-66 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with Sterling Rosse Consulting, Inc. for a consulting service to prepare a comprehensive facility consolidation and optimization plan be given a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed.
Move it.
Moved by Moore, seconder,
Second.
Widner, all in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes.
carried.
And bylaw number 21-68 being a deeming bylaw to deem lot 16 and 17, south side of Walnut Street, known as Collins Street, on registered plan number 55, the village of Port Bruce, not to be a plan of subdivision, be given a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed. Lewis and
I'll second it.
Galinsky, all in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes.
that's carried.
And anything else before we go into closed session? Seeing none. Mover and seconder, the council move into closed session at 9:10. Pursuant to section 239-2 of the Municipal Act as amended, to discuss the following: a proposed or pending acquisition, disposition of land by the municipality or local board relating to Century Line, labor relations or employee negotiations or personnel matter about an identified individual, including municipal or local board employee relating to finance department staffing, labor relation or employee negotiation and or personnel matter about an identified individual, including municipal or local board employees relating to municipal office staffing. And 4, labor relations, employee negotiation and or personnel matter but to identify an individual, including municipal or local board employee relating to the Director of Fire and Emergency Services. Mover and seconder,
Move it.
Widner, seconder,
Second.
Mover, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
yes,
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes,
carried.
thank you. So we'll have about a 3-minute break and you let us know, Allison, when we're ready to go into a closed session. Okay, we are now in open session. And I want to advise during the closed session, the council provided direction to the municipal staff regarding a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board related to the Century Line, and there's nothing further to report. And in regard to the closed session, we need a mover and second of the resignation of Arundhati Mohil as the Director of Finance Services be accepted with regrets, it being noted that such resignation will become effective on September 10th, 2021. And that Councillor Widner be appointed to sit with the Deputy Mayor and the Chief Administrative Officer, Human Resources, as well as an outside guest experienced in municipal treasury finance to form the recruitment committee for the hiring of a new Director of Finance Treasurer. That Tanya Hoover be appointed as the acting treasurer until such time as a new Director of Finance / Treasurer is able to recruit and begin position duties. So mover and seconder for that.
I'll move it.
Moved by Cerna, seconder. Galinsky, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes,
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes. Yes.
yeah, Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes.
carried.
And a mover and seconder, bylaw number 21-69 being a bylaw to appoint an acting treasurer for the township of Malahide to give it a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed.
Move it.
Moved by Widner, seconded by Lewis, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
yes,
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes.
carried.
And in regard to all the positions that we've created, mover and second, municipal staff to create the position of a building inspector. Municipal staff director will update the job description for GIS technician to the development service technician assistant, planner, and current GIS technician remained in this role. Municipal staff director create a contract position for the administrative clerk part-time. The municipal staff director proceed with the procurement of an e-permitting software for the building service division. Municipal staff director create the position of an asset management analyst. And the municipal staff director proceed with the internal posting for the new position of the asset management analyst. Position of Director of Development Services and Development Services Coordinator be declared redundant, which we all spoke about in closed session. Mover and seconder for that, please. Don't be shy.
Move it.
Moved by Moore, seconder.
I'll second it.
Cerna, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes,
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
No.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes,
that's carried.
thank you. And finally, mover and seconder, the council appoint a Director of Fire Emergency Services as per staff recommendation. The appointment will be effective October 4th, 2021. Staff provide formal announcement of the individual appointed to this position no earlier than the end of September 13th, 2021. Mover and seconder,
Move it.
moved by Widner, seconder,
I'll second it.
Cerna, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes,
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes,
that's carried.
thank you. And a mover and seconder, bylaw number 21-61, being a confirmatory bylaw, be given a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed. Moved by Lewis, seconder.
I'll second it.
Myrna, all in favor?
Counselor Woodner.
Yeah.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Oh,
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes.
that's carried.
And a mover and seconder, council adjourn its meeting at 9:58 to meet again on September 16th at 7:30. Galinsky and Widner, all in favor?
Counselor Woodner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
yes.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes.
carried.
Okay, thank you all for attending. Good night, folks. We made it before 10 o'clock.
There you go.